Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and happy Donkey Kong Bananza launch day. I'm planning on doing a live stream soon of this game, so if you're interested, make sure to check that one out. But what I want to focus on for today's video is talking about how Nintendo's big plan for a Zelda remake on Switch 2 is now more obvious than ever before. Yesterday was a crazy day from a news perspective. Donkey Kong Bananza, we had a whole bunch of reviews coming out for the game. There was a lot of things to talk about in regards to Donkey Kong. But also, to start the day, what Nintendo decided to do was finally announce the two big casting roles for the live-action Legend of Zelda movie. We finally know who's going to be playing Princess Zelda, and that is Bo Bragison, and who's going to be playing Link, the hero, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. And so both of these stories dominated the day. And after ruminating upon it, sitting on it for a night, thinking about the information we got yesterday, it's now more clear to me than ever before that Nintendo is planning something huge for The Legend of Zelda, and the movie does tie into it. But how does Donkey Kong tie into it? Well, that's what I'll be diving deeper into today. Let me tell you about this sleep mask from Manta Sleep, the sponsor for today's video. If you find yourself in need of a little bit of extra rest or an afternoon nap, then this sleep mask might be a great fit for you. When I tried it out, I was actually surprised at how soft and comfortable it is, and when you put it upon your face, it does its job. It blocks out all light and it puts you in a position to sleep quite easily, undisturbed. And I also found that the back strap was highly adjustable and not abrasive in any way. It was all very comfortable and soft to put on. So if you're looking to improve your sleep, check out the Manta Sleep mask in the link in the description below with my code SLEEPRESTART. So hear me out here. We've been theorizing for a while now that Nintendo eventually is going to remake The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And yes, they did at one point go back to Ocarina of Time on Nintendo 3DS with Ocarina of Time 3D. There's been debates about it being a remake, a remaster. It's a remaster, it literally says it in the back of the box, and they put a lot of work into it, but it is a remaster by definition because they didn't build it from the ground up totally new. Not really that important of a point. The main point here is that we've been theorizing that Nintendo is going to go back to Ocarina of Time again so many years later, an even longer gap than the gap between the original release and the 3DS release. And they're going to do it in a big way on Switch 2, likely tying it into the 40th anniversary. There's a long history of the producer of the Zelda series, Eiji Aonuma, teasing future Zelda games. He's done it for so many: Skyward Sword, Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, and on some occasions he's gone back and confirmed that he teased these games ahead of time, like in the case of Link's Awakening Remake. We have two different interviews where Aonuma has teased something to do with Ocarina of Time in the future. But it goes beyond just Aonuma teasing things here. When we look at how Nintendo's been operating, it seems like they are building up for a big Zelda event. And I'll be circling back to this. The main point to be made here and how it sort of ties into Donkey Kong is that we've now seen that this is what Nintendo does across the board. It's not just this build up to The Legend of Zelda, it's the build up to different big things they have planned down the road. We've seen Nintendo do this with Mario. We obviously had the opening of Super Nintendo World, we had all the Mario Lego sets. We had the anniversary events, different Mario releases, and then eventually the big Mario movie. But Nintendo was also very transparent in talking about how the Mario movie led to the increase of sales across the board for different Mario games. And when the movie was about to come out, we even had an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto where he teased a future Mario game. And I remember talking about this back then a couple years ago, and a lot of people really doubted that he was teasing something. But what happened in the next Nintendo Direct just a few short months later? They announced Super Mario Bros. Wonder to come out that holiday following the release of the big Mario movie. And so Nintendo's already talked about in their different investors meetings how they want to have this plan where people check out their different IP through the movies, theme parks, merchandising, mobile games, and ultimately come back to their main console. At the time it was a Switch, now it's moving on to the Switch 2, and play those games. And so we saw the increase of Mario sales across the board because of the movie, and during that promotional run of the movie, they also teased the next Mario game, Mario Wonder. And so you might say, okay, great, Nintendo did this for Mario, but they don't just do it for Mario, they do it for a lot of their other IP. We saw them even do this with Pikmin. They put Pikmin also throughout Super Nintendo World. We had Pikmin Bloom, we had Pikmin 3 Deluxe, and all this ultimately led to the release of Pikmin 4, which went on to become the best-selling game in the series. Now, if you've gone to this point in the video and you find yourself enjoying my content, I would like to point out I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet, your subscription would be appreciated. And so you may already see where I'm getting at here with Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Bananza, we got all the reviews yesterday, the game is apparently incredible, but it's been in the works for such a long time. In the Ask Developer series, it also came out this week. The developers of Donkey Kong talked about how Donkey Kong's new design in Bananza impacted the designs we saw in Mario Kart World and in the Mario movie. And I remember talking about when we saw the new design for Donkey Kong in the movie, when we saw the new design for Donkey Kong in Mario Kart World, how these were ultimately teases for what Nintendo was working on behind the scenes, the next big Donkey Kong game. All of this has been in a build-up to the next big Donkey Kong game. The Donkey Kong expansion to Super Nintendo World, the release of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD earlier this year, a significant role for Donkey Kong being played by Seth Rogen in the Mario movie. All these different things were all meant to bring Donkey Kong back to relevance to ultimately lead to a huge game, Donkey Kong Bananza. We even recently saw that Universal Pictures has filed a copyright to make a Donkey Kong movie. Nintendo's trying to make Donkey Kong super relevant now. And so the overall point to be made by all this is that there is an intentionality behind the moves Nintendo makes when it comes to pushing out their IP. All these actions we see Nintendo do in the couple years leading up to their next big game release for a particular IP, it builds on the sales potential for that series. Nintendo does tease things. Not everything is a stretch. There are times where maybe something is a stretch, sure. But as more and more evidence surfaces, some things become more and more clear, like Nintendo's plan for The Legend of Zelda. And so we've seen Nintendo do things for Legend of Zelda very similar to how they handled things for Mario, Pikmin, and Donkey Kong. We've already seen that Nintendo's included some things for Zelda in Super Nintendo World. They have some different Zelda characters alongside Donkey Kong and Mario in the stained glass. And we've also seen evidence that Eiji Aonuma, the producer of Zelda, alongside Miyamoto, were wearing hard hats during construction at Super Nintendo World, suggesting that Aonuma was there for some sort of Zelda purpose. So clearly there are plans to expand Zelda with the park. And Nintendo does a good job of keeping Zelda relevant with just game releases almost every year, frequently. But perhaps something more obvious is the release of this new LEGO set of the Deku Tree from The Legend of Zelda, not just from Breath of the Wild, but also from Ocarina of Time, going back many years. They didn't have to choose Ocarina of Time, there was a lot of other options. They could have just stuck with the Breath of the Wild version, but they put that in there for what I believe a very good reason, because they are building up to something here, a remake for Ocarina of Time. And we've already talked about how Aonuma has teased Ocarina of Time already. And so now coming back to the announcement of the actors for the Legend of Zelda movie, how does this make their plan more obvious? Well, we have two young actors here, very young, 16 and 21, Bo Bragison being 21, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth being 16 going on 17 soon, and they're both relatively unknown actors. There's purpose in going in this direction, a lot of it I would say. Some people are confused by these choices because they look at the choices Nintendo made for the Mario movie and a lot of them were big famous prominent actors that are very well known. And there's a big difference here. We're talking about a live-action Legend of Zelda movie versus an animated Mario movie. You're not going to see the faces of these actors in the Mario movie because it's all animated. It's a lot easier to hear the voice and attach it to the character as opposed to realizing it's that particular actor while watching the movie. It doesn't necessarily take away from your immersion. And so I'm not here trying to say that when it comes to the Zelda movie, they're going to make sure every single actor is very unknown. I think they probably are going to bring in some big names for other roles, but when it comes to Princess Zelda and Link, they want to go with characters who are young, who are going to grow with the series, because many believe, and I agree there's a likelihood to this, that they will continue making even more Zelda movies after this first one, especially if it's successful. And so you want these young actors to grow, but also you want them to be relatively unknown, because you don't want them to be typecasted going into these roles. You want people to identify these characters as Link and Zelda moving forward. Very similar to Daniel Radcliffe and Harry Potter, for example. But with this understanding in mind, what does this mean for the future of Zelda? Well, let's take a look at Link. They're going for someone very young here. He's 16, but you look at his look, and clearly, what I can see from these photos here, they're not going for a straight-up adult Link right from the get-go. They're almost going for something a little bit in between, where he can sort of almost match the young Link look, and then he will develop rather quickly, in just a few short years, into more of the adult Link look. That may be why they went for this particular age. He's on the cusp of becoming a full-grown man, and so they can actually make the first movie with more of a younger Link in mind, and then he's going to develop into that more adult Link. And so you might see where I'm getting at here. They're already sort of hinting at how they want to do a little bit of a young Link versus adult Link dynamic here. Not saying both are going to be in the movie, but it's looking like we're going to see that progression. And so when we're talking about seeing both young and adult Link, what is the ideal game to showcase both? Ocarina of Time, where you literally play as both young Link and adult Link. And so it's another piece to the puzzle that's fitting in perfectly here. We've already seen how Nintendo, when they have a movie and a big game, they tie into each other. We've seen that with Mario. We're now seeing that with Donkey Kong. And I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that Nintendo's going to tie in a big Zelda game with the movie as well. And to clarify on something here, because I feel like some people might get confused about this, I'm not here trying to say that Nintendo's going to be making movies when there's going to be a game that's based off the movie. No, Mario Wonder is not like the movie, and when we eventually get this Donkey Kong movie, it's not going to be a retelling of Donkey Kong Bananza. Nor is this live-action Zelda movie going to be a retelling of Ocarina of Time. It's going to be its own unique movie. However, those who watch the movie will be more likely to play the next big game. Now, some people might argue, well, maybe it's a new Zelda game instead. And I do think we are going to, of course, get a new Zelda game on Switch too. But timing-wise, it makes more sense to expect a remake first. Tears of the Kingdom came out in 2023. We just got the Switch 2 editions for those games. Very subtle, minor enhancements, but nice enhancements. We are years away before the next brand new Zelda game. We've seen how the development for these big brand new games takes 5 to 7 years, and we've been treading in the direction of them taking even longer. Considering the timing of things, we'd be lucky to see the next brand new Zelda in just 3 years' time. So what can Nintendo do in the meanwhile? Remake a classic and promote it around the same time as the Zelda movie. Next year is Zelda's 40th anniversary. Unlike Mario, Nintendo hasn't pushed Zelda's anniversaries as much, but they have done it time to time, more so than some of their other IP. And things are working out here in a very similar fashion. We have the Mario movie coming out early next year, a few months removed from the Mario's 40th anniversary, so they will start to advertise the Mario movie during these 40th anniversary celebrations. And a year later, it looks like they could do something very similar for Zelda. And by that point, it would make sense to start talking about some sort of major Zelda release early on for Switch 2. They always have some sort of major release early on for Switch 2. Minor enhancements for Tears and Breath of the Wild that doesn't quite cut it, not even close. Just looking at the sales of those games, while positive for Switch 2 editions, not even close to what you would want for a major Zelda release. It absolutely makes sense to think that a major Zelda release should be coming fairly soon, and in some way, be it slightly before or slightly afterwards, promotion of the Zelda movie will benefit the game, just like it worked for the Mario movie. And so how might things progress here? Well, I would expect that Nintendo, as we get closer and closer to the release of the live-action Zelda movie in May of 2027, there are going to be more and more updates. There might not be too many on the Zelda movie in this year. They are soon likely to start focusing on the Mario movie given that it's coming out a lot sooner. But in the meanwhile, I suspect other things are going to happen. We've already heard that there are going to be more Zelda Lego sets, so I presume there will be more, and perhaps some of those won't just be about the recent Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Zelda, but also Ocarina of Time, further showcasing the more traditional look of Link from the majority of the Zelda series. But entering next year, we will start to talk about the 40th anniversary. Will something special happen? It might be something small. There has been a rumor that has come out in support of this theory of the Ocarina of Time remake. This rumor having come from Nash Weedle. Now recently, Nash Weedle wasn't totally solid on Nintendo Direct timing, he had conflicting sourcing on that matter, but everything else he's talked about recently has been correct in terms of Donkey Kong Bananza in the April Direct, mouse controls in Metroid Prime 4, several third-party games, how Nintendo will be handling Switch 2 editions. It seems like he might have some inside information there. Regardless, take it with a grain of salt. But if we're talking about the rumor coming from him, he's expressed some doubt that the game would be ready for the 40th anniversary, because somewhat recently they went through an art style change. Which also might suggest they may be going with something a bit more visually ambitious, which is exciting, but may also mean we may have to wait a bit longer beyond the 40th anniversary for this game to come out. However, the Zelda movie is supposed to come out May of 2027, a little bit after 2026 where we'll be celebrating this anniversary. I would assume sometime in 2026 they'll more hardcore advertise the movie after the Mario movie comes out. And there still will likely be some sort of anniversary celebration for The Legend of Zelda. Maybe they will go a bit bigger. Maybe there could be like an anniversary direct, similar to what they did for Mario's 35th anniversary. And even if this Zelda remake is going to take a little bit longer, say it's not ready for 2026, and it's coming out maybe in 2027 instead, they will at least announce it in 2026 is my expectation as part of the 40th anniversary celebrations, and showcase something exciting for 3D Zelda fans to get more people invested in the console of Switch 2 early on. And so with all of that in mind, Nintendo's big plan for Zelda is now more obvious than ever before. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways everyone, this is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Don't forget you can check out that Manta Sleep mask with my code SLEEPRESTART with the link in the description below. I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.